So what is WHO and WHA and probably 30 other abbreviations I'll use today? WHO is the World Health Organization. So that is the health branch of the United Nations. And WHA is the World Health Assembly. So that is the largest annual meeting or assembly of the who's who in global public health and health policy. So there you have all of the United Nations member states with their ministers of health or their equivalent attend. It has come under fire in the past several years for being more of a bureaucratic show, just kind of saying, yeah, we went to that, we're doing our due diligence. But I had a really interesting experience, I think partially because of the Ebola outbreak. They're realizing that they have to come up with a little more action plans, and some of the criticism has been brought to light. So I got to see some action actually happen at some of these side meetings, and it was a very incredible experience. So this is the United Nations. This is where the assembly is held. This is my photo, not something from the internet. It feels really cool to say that. Right across there, you can see the press. Above that and the top, that is public entrance there. For a while, I was really thinking I wasn't going to be able to find a delegate position, so I told myself, well, I'm going to buy the flight anyway, and I'll wake up really early in the morning and go every day at 5 a.m. and be the first one in line if need be. Thankfully, that didn't have to be the case. I still had to wake up really early, though. The floor there is where all the ministers of health are, and I'm in the NGO gallery right there, which is pretty cutthroat to get in, by the way. People are very political and polite, and then as soon as it comes to filing up to the NGO gallery, I mean, it is vicious to get up there. But we made it. The center picture, for some reason, is a little pixelated, but you can see on the left, Director Margaret Chan. You have the 68th World Health Assembly, which was this past one, the president that was elected for that. Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, is shaking the hand. She gave the keynote speech, which was really exciting. We had massive security that day, but her words and the words of Director Margaret Chan were very powerful and resounded with myself, a naturopath from Germany/Spain, and Tabby Parker a lot. William Michael Kernan, I guess he was there. Especially because the things that they were saying and their message for this assembly were very, very similar to the principles of naturopathic medicine and align with many of integrative medicine's pillars. And so whether you are a naturopathic medical student, an MPH student, an herbal sciences student, the things that we heard, and those are all on YouTube, by the way, so you can look them up, were very inspiring. And I came away from that some of those days and just said, put me in, coach, like, let me tell you what we can do. So it was very exciting to hear them speak. And then there's my really excited, tired face to be that close to Margaret Chan. That was kind of fun. These are where their regional offices are. They have field offices, and I believe every single one of their member states. So if this is something that you're interested in, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, know that these are where some of their headquarters are. Obviously, Geneva is where the main headquarters are. But if you're looking at, like, oh, I want to work abroad, keep in mind some of these places. So why go, right? 1, to continue naturopathic representation. Join the student presence and engage that student community. 3, develop and maintain relationships. And like I'd already mentioned, it was a personal goal and I had to plan backwards to be there. 1, naturopathy at the World Health Assembly. And I say that, not naturopathic medicine, because that's often what is used globally is naturopathy or naturopathy, not necessarily naturopathic medicine. We, to our knowledge, and still to this day, have the highest standards for naturopathic medical education. That doesn't mean, though, that we should be the only ones representing naturopathy on a global scale, right? So when you talk to people around the globe, you have to not always bring that ego with you into the conversation. So myself, well, I'm a student, so I'm not really on a level, but let's just pretend like I was an ND while I was there. Myself and the naturopath that is next to me, who's been practicing for so many years, we are equals, and that that is the way that conversation needs to be, because she has so much to share with me about the way that she's practiced or what she's learned as I could do for her. Again, if I was a naturopathic doctor when I was there. June 2017, guys, it's coming. So here on the left, David Chapman Smith. He has led the World Federation of Chiropractic for many years. He, I think, recently has retired. I remember they gave him some kind of big gift or dinner to honor him. And then Tabby and Michael Cronin, and they are the people who started it all and inspired me and many students I have heard since in this journey. They went in 2014, by the way. They have a video online. I'm not going to play it now, but it's something to check out. And if you are interested in global health, and this just wasn't something that you happened to see was happening in the auditorium, I really recommend that you check out some of these videos of not only this past World Health Assembly, but 2014's as well. And you can kind of see a little bit of difference in their focus and the direction that they're headed. Just check that out. So the World Health Assembly as a catalyst for the World Naturopathic Federation, or WNF. One of the intents for Tabby and Michael Cronin to go to the World Health Assembly was to be part of that conversation, right? And so they went to the World Health Assembly with the WFC, World Federation of Chiropractic, in 2014, and shortly thereafter, it was in the beginning of July, I believe, was ICNM in Paris, and they kind of realized we're looking at all these other professions organized on a globe, on a worldwide level. We need to be doing the same. We need to become a cohesive front line as this world becomes increasingly globalized. Not only will naturopathic medicine or the naturopathic profession be extremely advantageous in many parts of the world, or all parts of the world, it'll be necessary that we all have one common understanding of who we are and advocate for each other and our patients on a global scale with one body. So that was one of the, I guess, a huge significance of WNF. So they decided, we have several countries here in representation, so let's do it. So fast forward, this past June, we had our inaugural meeting in Calgary. Not we, I guess, because I wasn't there, but they did. Also moving forward, as now that they are a federation, they have a few things that they need to do to kind of show the WHO that, hey, we are a federation, we're doing things, we have some literature under our belt that we can show you about our organization, about our profession, and then they can start getting into some of those collaborations. Also, a side note, you can apply and register as a student member of WNF. It's $50 right now. I wouldn't say that it's anything that you necessarily need to do, but it is something available to you if you're interested. WHO requires that all of their federations have a structure similar to the way they do. So you have WHO, and each of their member states has one representative that represents the entire body. And so for WHO, they ask, okay, if you're going to have a federation, you need to have one member that represents every one of the individual bodies. So the ANP, for example, is our representative. And so from here on out, I believe if you're an AANP member, then essentially you already are being represented. But there are additional perks. Go ahead and check them out. This is their website. I wanted to show you this because this was originally on their website. I copied it over here, the interim committee. You'll see that there's only one person from the United States that was on the interim committee. That just shows you that naturopathy, naturopathic medicine, is not just in North America. We are so widespread, and you can actually log on to their website now and get a better feel for where we are. But this map is pretty neat to show you at least where our eligible members stand. It doesn't mean that naturopathy exists or doesn't exist in those white areas. These are 3 documents I strongly suggest that you become aware of, if not, more familiar with. Starting on the far right, benchmarks for training and naturopathy. A chiropractor, when she was at the end of her education, a handful of years back, or maybe 10, I don't know. We had a lot of caffeine during this conversation, so I don't entirely remember the years, but at the end of her time in school, she realized she really wanted to work for the World Health Organization. Ended up getting an internship. She worked extremely hard and was very dedicated throughout this process, and eventually they asked her to make this document. They found out that she was a chiropractor and she may have some familiarity, so she did a lot of research. She made this document. It is the only document right now on a global scale that represents our training and anyone in the naturopathic profession and their training. That being said, take a look at it. It may not entirely represent the education we're getting here today. That also, and we're very, very thankful for the work that she put in to make this document happen. Another significance of the WNF existing is that we can be part of writing our own documents, our own history, the most up-to-date information, what's really happening. In the far left, the Global Action Plan for the Prevention and Control of Non-Communicable Diseases. I'll get into NCDs in a second, but I really want to just highlight that to check that out, as well as the WHO Traditional Medicine Strategy. We had a talk earlier, and I searched the document for the word naturopathic, and I only found it once in the document. Now, unless I had some kind of computer glitch and it isn't there again, it's been a while since I flipped through the physical copy. It's still, again, something to look at. Their goals are to provide knowledge to help regulate and form the policy, and one other thing. But again, these are 3 documents. If I had to cast my net out, I would say these are some of the top 3 to gain familiarity with. So this is the big idea, right? Students need to be part of this conversation too. We are highly formidable in our time as a student. The way that I'm going to form my clinical processing, my clinical reasoning, the way I'm going to have an attitude towards my license, my profession, my future colleagues, the direction, that is being formed, or the seedlings, that's happening right now. So it's so crucial that we be at the table, if not always to be a speaker, but to be a listener in that conversation. And so that was equally, if not greater of a goal, and the reason why I wanted to be there. So I'll get into that. Student representation, joining the student force, giving naturopathic students a seat at the table. How did this happen? Very briefly, I kind of already got into it. I decided I want to go. I couldn't really find anyone who had a seat available for me, so I decided I'll wake up early and do it. I bought a $1,400 flight on my credit card. Not something I would recommend doing. I continued to contact people. It fell in my lap in an email one day that someone had made this possible, and I could be a delegate with the WFC, the World Federation of Chiropractic. They had said, okay, we already have a really big delegation, but we'll let her join. I didn't go to any of the dinners, but I couldn't tell you how ecstatic I was to receive that email. I worked really hard with a lot of incredible support and generosity. I had my entire flight, my Airbnb, which even though I picked one of the cheapest places, Geneva is not cheap. All my food and travel expenses ended up being paid for. So I was extremely grateful to a community, a village. Bastyr also was extremely helpful, even in my exams and every last detail, very supportive. So what did I do when I got there? So the assembly, the plenary, the side meetings, I think I kind of attended a WFC delegate meeting, but it wasn't really pertinent to me, so I went to the naturopathic delegate meetings. Lots of coffee, we barely slept. It was constantly, being in that environment, what I'll say is it's kind of like when you realize you want to go to naturopathic medical school and you have that excitement and you want to tell everyone about it. You get there in the morning and it's constantly, your wheels are turning, and other people may go out and have some downtime at night, but it was always exciting to see that our profession, an integrative health profession as a whole, has such an opportunity, and right now we have such a sweet point of entry, I feel, and so we constantly were strategizing or talking about ideas. I networked, we prepared, reviewed. I have a video, but you don't need to see my face in a video and here, so if you really want to know what it was, I'll tell you later. So topics of interest. I want to really pause on this. This kind of connects back to the documents I was telling you about. Topics of interest that we really paid attention to while we were there. Non-communicable diseases, which we call NCD for short. AMR, antimicrobial resistance. Women's and children's health. Traditional medicine and nutrition. These side meetings that related to this were, in my opinion, some of the gateways or those sweet spots of entry for our profession to really get involved in the global health and health policy community. Some of those documents, like that global action plan that talks about the prevention and control of NCDs, I would really, in a personal opinion, like to see us get involved in the strategy to tackle some of those, because NCDs, or diseases that can be prevented by lifestyle and other things that we so expertly know how to manage and prevent, we can really be a part of this, in my opinion. Also, antimicrobial resistance, getting beyond the conversation of making sure you finish your dose, making sure we're not overprescribing. One of the side meetings was fantastic to witness. Antimicrobial resistance, the AMR side talk, was so packed that we were beyond standing room only. People were sitting in the walkways. Director Margaret Chan came for the majority of that talk. And at the beginning of every side meeting, whatever country ministers of health are present will give a 3 to 5 minute update on what has happened in their country in this past year. What work have they done? What progress have they made? And then after that, the moderator opens it up to certain prompts, the questions that they have. And then after that, anyone in the public health profession or the NGOs, the press that are there get to fire away. Part of that bureaucratic show I was talking about earlier is that a lot of times in the past, those ministers of health, or maybe not them, I'm not trying to disrespect what they do, would sometimes just say, we really need to increase awareness this year. And that was the length of the conversation. And so you saw some ministers of health who were probably really frustrated for being tossed into that group, who said, I know you all really want action plans. We are not just doing awareness this year. We are talking about antibiotics in agriculture. We're talking about X, Y, Z. And some of those things, at least in our campus, and I'm sure here, are things that are talked about in the lunchroom all the time. Oh, we need to tackle this from the agricultural perspective. We need to think about blah, 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 blah. They actually did bring up a lot of those points. It was really exciting to see. But I think, again, that's an area that we can talk about. Women's and children's health, and so on. I think I've made my point clear at this point. So develop and maintain meaningful relationships. In addition to having a seat at the table, a personal goal, and we had a working group for the winter quarter. I think we started a working group with a few NDs, people who were higher up within NMSA, maybe ANMC, about potentially creating a World Federation for Naturopathic Students down the line. We are a very different population. We don't have much structure beyond NMSA that we are aware of at this time. So in my mind, I thought, well, there are so many student federations or organizations that have different models. What works for one group, and how does that work? What benefit does that have to their students? How do the students grow from or benefit from that program at all? So I wanted to check out a few organizations. I happened to bump into the communications officer for the Director General's Office of the United Nations, and I had coffee with him for half an hour one day and got to pick his brain. Part of it was cool because I didn't know that sometimes all you have to do is ask for an internship there. Sometimes they are so busy that they don't even have time to post an internship. So I'm just saying, maybe just email, you'd be surprised what happened. And then just to hear how the relationship with the United Nations and the World Health Organization goes. We covered a lot of ground there. Student organizations. Obviously, having gone as a delegate with the WFC, the World Congress of Chiropractic Students, WCCS, 4 of those students were present, well, I guess 3 and a recent grad. And they were my buddies the entire time I was there. In fact, I followed up with them. About 2 weeks ago, we had a video conference call, and we have made a commitment that we will do so every quarter from now on, because they're also interested in developing their Congress one day to a federation. We probably chatted with one of the executive committee members of IFMSA, International Federation of Medical Students Association, for probably an hour, hour and a half. We closed down the UN. I think we were some of the last people there, and I'll show you a fun picture we got to take because, well, no one was there, so we thought it would be a good idea. Universities Allied for Essential Medicines, UAIM, is a group I was more active with at the end of my college career. They are a global health nonprofit that advocates university intellectual property policy and with the tech transfer offices to advocate that any of those, the intellectual property or pharmaceuticals so often that are developed in their own labs are offered at a reduced cost in areas where they otherwise would not be able to afford them. And so they have a very unique structure as well that I thought would be really interesting to communicate with about. So that's what I talked about, their infrastructure. What are their policies? What are their alliance capabilities and capacity? What's their leadership look like? Lessons learned. IFMSA has been around for a long time, and they are so streamlined and so impressive with their effect. What's their connection to the professional federation, if there is one? It's really neat as students. We have a lot of energy, or so I'm told by graduates of people who've been out for so many years. What's it like to be outside of that environment and to be part of a professional federation? Do the two talk? Can they work together? Do they have a relationship? What is that like? So taking all the information that I learned, which is a mere scrape off the top of the iceberg, and eventually an interim committee will have to dig way deeper and figure it out. But we have to translate what makes sense for naturopathic students worldwide. Not just, hey, NMSA, you've been bumped up to being this federation, because that will not work and it shouldn't work. It's a very egotistical perspective. So, personal goals I already told you about, but here's that fun picture I was telling you about. No one was there, so we thought, hey, this seems like a good idea, and it was. Right here on the bottom was the first day that we went. It was Sunday, so we went to get our badges. Nothing had started. But I was so excited when I looked up and saw flags and realized where I was. I had tears brimming, and I thought, Mom's going to love this one. So I just sent a picture to her. I was really happy. So this is great and all. I had a really good time. I took a big risk and somehow didn't fall into massive debt for a $1,400 flight for nothing. And it worked out. I've had incredible conversations. I had bursting with ideas. This is great, but what about everyone else? What about the future beyond my narrow perspective? That's where everyone else comes into play. It's more than just worldwide. It has to start local. It's really great to talk about what we can go do somewhere else, but we really have to start here. So research, and that goes back to this. This is something I cannot stress the significance more about. WNF will slowly but surely accrue more literature. So will ICNM, International Congress of Naturopathic Medicine. It is pivotal that we be critical and constructive about our own profession and moving forward, about what we can offer, the efficacy of our medicine, and writing that down and sharing it in venues where other people are going to get their trusted information. And where is that? That's research so often, or really well-written policy briefs and ideas and proposals. I think as students, we are put in a very unique position, although there is never enough time to actually make that time or make that space to do this research. If we really think about it, if we are creative enough, there are always some kind of way often to find a grant that you can use to perform research in any of these areas. So I just kind of want to pause and say, look at this real hard. Think if you're interested in research in any capacity. It doesn't even have to be basic science research. You could be doing reading articles on policy and coming up with something, writing an op-ed, getting content out there. If anything, it helps you articulate this matter for your own brain, for your own personal benefit after you graduate in a clinical setting, or even just to be able to navigate your way through the literature and have a conversation with someone in a way, with a worldview that they aren't familiar with. So that is my little biggest soapbox that you can do. State organizations, basic, NMSA chapter, getting involved. I shouldn't say basic because it has a profound effect. National, NMSA, are you an ANP member? Submitting that research to beyond just your school, but ANP, NDNR, American Public Health Association, AIHM, Academy of Integrative and Holistic Medicine. I think that's right. Having an alliance collaboration with AMSA, and then worldwide talking about the World Federation of Naturopathic Students. At NMSA convention this past, a month ago, we had a global health table where we talked about what's next. We talked about the idea of WFNS, if that ends up being what it would be called. But really what's next is us forming a working group to reach out to the various countries where we know in that benchmark, the benchmark of training in naturopathy, making a point on that. That is the document that helps us know who is eligible to become a member of WNF, that education standard, so it helps other countries know they should build their education up to that point. But contacting the countries who are current members and saying, okay, well, you've passed that threshold to become a member, so I know that your institution passes their requirements. Please connect me to that institution so I can talk to your students, and together we'll form an interim committee. We'll decide, do we even have other countries that want to be part of the Federation, right? Because if it's just us, then not this time, maybe years down the line. And that's something also to keep in mind. You can become a member of WNF. You can have an alliance and collaboration with another student federation. So right now, we have some kind of connection to the World Congress of Chiropractic Students. I'll be following up with that young lady from IFMSA. And then at a worldwide level, you can submit your research to the International Congress of Naturopathic Medicine, which seems to be happening every 2 years now in the summertime. This upcoming one is 2016 in Barcelona, in case you feel like that is something you would like to do. I would like to pause here as well. Under local, I put NDI, and if very putting out any kind of conflict of interest, I guess you could say, I work very closely with NDI. And I put NDI on here not just because of that relationship I have with them, not just because they are a huge part of the reason why I was even able to do this, but additionally, and part of the WHO kind of informal relationship guidelines is if you are a federation that has any kind of connection to them, they want to know that the organizations and the programs that you are sponsoring, they're regulated, that they are registered with the Ministry of Health. It's not really a good idea to start supporting something that you can't track or don't really know what's going on there. And so WNF is promoting and encouraging any kind of naturopathic organization that does outreach, especially global health outreach, when other organizations or other governments may not know or have the capacity to regulate, that they make the effort and they follow up and make it happen, that they are registered with their relative Ministry of Health or whatever the equivalent is. NDI at this time, to my knowledge, and I would love to hear if anyone else has other news, is the only naturopathic organization in the global health realm that is registered with the Ministry of Health. I don't say this to deter anyone from being involved with any of the other organizations because I know they do phenomenal work. However, if you do decide to go, then be the student who gets involved and says, hey, I really love the work that you're doing, and I want to make sure we're covering all our ground and we can really grow. How we can really grow? Let's get registered with the Ministry of Health. Take that on. That would be an amazing growth experience. So, because I'm going to promote opportunities for you, global health, where it's a good idea. NDI, Natural Doctors International, these are the two brigades that are most in our near future that satisfy your and my school breaks. This is on their website, ndimed.org. You can email me specifically if you have questions about the actual brigade or the program. I'd be more than happy to answer. But as you can see, there are still plenty of openings. So previous student questions, this is a little small, but I've pretty much already talked about most of this. Basically, it just says there are restrictions outside of the USA. Some places there is no regulation at all. Some places it may even be near illegal for you to practice naturopathic medicine, even if you were educated there. Each country is different, and that kind of just reiterates it is so important for the WNF to exist, to grow, and for us to become engaged, involved, and supported. So enough of me chatting with you. I would really, really love to hear multiple people's perspective. That I tried to stop early enough so I could get you to think, because it's cool to hear what I have to bring to the table, but you have thoughts too that I would really like to hear. So if you could look at the last 4 questions, just think, what are your interests in regards to global health and our global health policy? By the way, there's no right, wrong answer to this. What other ways do you think the naturopathic and integrative medicine professions can make an impact on global health and policy? As an example to guide you in that question, I believe naturopathic principles in the profession would be very advantageous in fighting biopiracy and climate change. Those are other ways that affect global health if you looked into it. How do you envision our profession further integrating, or if you're not a naturopathic medical student, how do you envision your profession integrating into this global health and policy realm and making an impact in the next 5 years, 10 years? And then more importantly, how do you see you specifically and your colleagues being a part of that? And lastly, you don't have to tell me this now, but if you want to think about it, what can you do today, even in the smallest way, to become a little bit more engaged than you have been in the past? So maybe think about this for a moment. If anyone else feels immediately inspired, I would love if you just say your name and what year in the program or what student you are, if you're staff, faculty, or public. And additionally, what I would like to say, I'll flip back to that in a second, is to start this conversation in a realm where the public can be a part of it too. Because it's great and all to be talking about it here in this environment, but you always, although this is going to sound exactly the opposite of what I said 5 minutes ago, increasing awareness, right? There still is a purpose to that, and we're still at a point where we do need to increase awareness. So I have these, and these will be, Naturopathic Medicine Week is only going to last a few more days, but the top 3 are ones that I'm personally going to be using from now on. So naturopathic medical students and global health policy, Bastyr students and global health policy, and integrative global health policy. These are the people I recommend you can tweet at: WNF, ANP, ANMC. That, by the way, if you're a first year and unfamiliar, they are the overarching body for all the naturopathic medical schools. Bastyr, NMSA, and NDI. I encourage you to be prompted, and I'll also send this out to anyone who would like it, but using these to write something, whether it's a journal article, talk about it with someone at dinner tonight, write a blog article if you're inspired by something like this, or answer all the questions and email them to me. I'm going to take quotes that have been really profound today, and hopefully either send it out to ANMC or someone, because I'd like to make some kind of really powerful infographic to get out there about how naturopathic medical students' minds are in relation to global health policy. What's our presence like at our own NMSA conferences? What's our presence as a student population at AANP? How about another global experience we can have? International Congress of Naturopathic Medicine. We've only had 2 so far, right? And they are an organization that, man, if you are doing some of this research, that is a great place to go. It doesn't have as a formal of a structure right now, so we should increase the rigor and be that part that helps it build up. So I would comment on that, and then also, if I can just ride that curtail for a second longer, if you'll allow me. Talking about this now is really, really great. I am so glad that you are here, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. But additionally, we are a small percentage of people who may be, whether it's I didn't have class right now, or however you are here, increasing student conversation about this every day. And something that we're doing at our campus is holding a space by having a really casual coffee talk bi-weekly. The money that we raise goes back to sending students to Lobby Day and DC Fly. We had our first one 2 days ago, so I'm not going to preach like this is amazing thing, because we'll see. But it creates a space for students just to talk about topics that are more complex, that are more likely to be a potential hyper-partisan issue, and to kind of remove the dirty from policy. Build a way that you, as a future, not only physician, but maybe a policy or a global health policy and professional, will be able to have critical yet constructive conversations. I think that part always gets left out. It's so easy to be critical. I have a thank you. My mom's also up there. These are the people who I could not have done this without, and I also put the Band-Aid up there because, let me tell you, next time I will wear the most hideous old tennis shoes ever, and that was a rough time. So, questions? I encourage you, please give me 48 hours, but use this email address or look me up, Griffin.McMath, through the Bastyr Gmail that is phenomenal at filling in the space. If you have thoughts on the questions, or if you just want to tell me, hey, you came and you want to be part of a working group in the future, let me know. I'll put you in the document and in the listserv, and we'll make that happen. By listserv, I mean there's a handful of us, but that's okay. And then if you do have certain thoughts that you don't mind being part of something that's public, and I can quote you, or if you prefer not to have your name attached to it, I would love to include your thoughts on some of those questions, or even your goals, just to show that naturopathic students, or nutrition students, or herbal science students, or MPH students want to be part of the global health policy conversation. And with that, I used a template, so I have to legally say that I used a free template. I'm done. Thank you so much for coming.